Right now, though, allow me to introduce the Executive Director, Association of Media Women in Kenya, Queenter Mbori. Queenter, a very good morning to you. Welcome to Radio Generation.
Asante, good morning Mbuvi.
Niko salama sana. Nimeona hapa mmesalimiana na City, nikasema ni marafiki wa kutoka kitambo sana.
We come from way back. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Good stuff. City ni nani hujui? I think that will be an easier question.
Kindiki.
You don't know the professor?
No, man.
You don't know the deputy president?
Sumeniuliza.
So kuna mtu mmoja anajua mwenye hujui?
Yes. Simjui.
City is a good man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he only knows good people.
You know, this man, it is a special gift that God gave him. The ability to interpret things in ways that will confound you completely. You say one thing, did you hear the interpretations?
You see, what happened is we have a brief history with CT.
Right.
And actually aligned to the work that I currently do.
Yes.
I'm sure you'll talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually know about AMWIK.
Oh, you do?
My mother had been a member for a very long time because she was in broadcast media.
Wow.
Yeah. But for the sake of the listener who has absolutely no idea who or what AMWIK is all about, maybe you can introduce us to AMWIK.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes.
AMWIK, actually, it's in full, we say the Association of Media Women in Kenya. It is the national, like the UN, it is the national association that caters for all the women across Kenya, all the 47 counties.
Right.
And we've been around. We are a not-for-profit organization. We've been around for a while, and I'm not surprised your mother was a member of AMWIK, which makes you an associate member of AMWIK.
Yes.
So AMWIK was established in 1982. And basically, it was around the time when women were really pushing and agitating for better representation and portrayal in the media. I wouldn't say a lot has changed. The progress has been slow, but at least we've seen some steady rise and increment of issues that of issues that are affecting women in the media. AMWIK is a membership organization, and we have membership again cutting across all the 47 counties in Kenya. And what we basically do is we pool resources. You know, one of our strength actually is membership and the numbers. Okay. So we pool resources, we pool networks of our members across the country to give visibility to issues that affect women, youth, and the children. Now, AMWIK, our programs and activities are aligned around 5 thematic areas. The first one is on media development and membership. One thing that they won't tell you is that there are certain specialized skills that media training schools will not give you.
Such as?
How to report on specific issues like gender sensitively, gender transformatively. So you'll be given the broad-based information on journalism and media practice, but in terms of just that specialized reporting on how to perhaps talk about sexual reproductive health and rights, how to report on illicit financial flows, giving you the details. A lot of that is not done in media training in schools. So what AMWIK does is we've noticed that gap. And now to bridge that gap, we do a lot of media capacity strengthening and media training, particularly the areas where we feel that women are less represented. Now, these are the technical subjects, the politics, business, because the rest of the other stories, the light stories, the lifestyle stories, our media houses actually they focus on that. So media development and membership. The second one is on women's economic empowerment. In a layman's language is pesa mkononi. Yes. When women are economically empowered, then you will see magic happen in this country.
True.
And so what we do is, again, using our networks and our platforms, we hold different discussions that speak to policy issues and how women can generally be economically empowered. Closely linked to that is on gender and governance. That is where decisions are being made. We want to be there on the decision-making tables. Up to this moment, you'll realize that our mandate goes beyond our membership. We have a responsibility to the women, the youth and the children of this country. And therefore, we are very vocal when it comes to laws and policies that we feel will add value to the places and rooms where decisions are being made in this country. And so we've been quite vocal about the implementation of the 2/3 gender principle, which unfortunately has dragged almost 15-16 years down the lane. Not much has happened. So once again, we are very big on equipping women in leadership with skills on how they can advance their leadership, how can they can participate in the democratic space adequately and in a manner that can elevate the voices and amplify the issues of women in this country. Now we also do programmatic work around sexual reproductive health and rights. Now on this, apart from just giving media visibility and doing media advocacy, AMWIK leads a very critical role. We have a coalition of media actors in this country called Kenya Media Sector Working Group that has everybody on board. The convener is Kenya Editors Guild, Kenya Union of Journalists, and of course we have the media regulator, the Media Council of Kenya, and many others, Kenya Correspondents Association, all the media actors. So AMWIK leads the Gender Committee, which has been given the responsibility to ensure that there is, among others, there is zero tolerance to sexual harassment happening in the country. And so when you talk about AMWIK in the media industry in Kenya, our role is almost synonymous to ensuring that there is no harassment, no form of sexual harassment happening in any media house across this country. And we've done quite a lot of interventions to that field. And then we also have a responsibility, which is perhaps one of the reasons that we're here today, which is on digital safety and security. And I'll explain why. Where we were with City Muga, and that is, should I mention?
Yes, go ahead.
We were at the Standard Group for a couple of years. The mainstream media, I would say, is largely male-dominated.
Predominantly.
Yes. So what we see in most of our newsroom in this country and even in the region is that the gatekeeping and media leadership seems to be a reserve of men. Unfortunately, that is a fact. We just have to say it the way it is. So what we have seen is that media tends to reflect what is happening in society. And so when you see patriarchy in newsroom, then it's also a reflection of patriarchy in society. However, there is a small window where we feel like we can actually navigate or go around the status quo in the newsroom, and this is the digital platform. With a digital platform, me, Queenter Mbori, can actually own a media house, because all I need to do is exploit the available digital platforms such as the YouTube and the social media. Now with this, it means that women can actually grow in their own respective ways without having to deal with the bureaucracies and the patriarchy that pre-exist in the mainstream media house. Perhaps I can even ask at NRG, how many women do we have? Not NRG, at Radio Generation. How many women do we have in leadership?
Actually, we have quite a... Wacha nisi brag sana, but wako.
In leadership.
The people who are making decisions. Okay, interesting. That I mean, then you're one in a million.
I'll introduce you to some of them after the show.
I cannot wait. So the digital platform is one of the resources that we guard selfishly, because other than giving employment to women in the media, we can still use these platforms to advance our campaigns. You remember some of the most popular campaigns in the history of the world, like the Me Too campaigns in Kenya. We had My Dress, My Choice. They were all enabled. Even the recent one on femicide, they were all enabled because of the digital platforms. And let me tell you, pitching for a story that is considered gendered in a mainstream media house is extremely difficult when we have other things happening in the country, politics, corruption. So when you sports. Exactly, sports. So when you want to pitch a story on sexual reproductive health and rights, and something big is happening in the world, it becomes a hard sell. But with the digital platforms, you have the freedom We are our own bosses. We can use the same platforms to carry our content. And so it is such a big enabler, particularly to advance gender equality in the media. Unfortunately, it is also the same platform that is being used by the keyboard warriors to attack the women journalists and women in public spaces. Let me end there.
Okay.
Yes.
No, pause, not end.
Let me pause there. Let me pause there.
You say end, now essentially we
let me
just
pause
began the
there.
conversation.
Yes. No, maybe just to add one more thing. That,
Sure.
that AMWIK is actually open to all the women in the media in this country. In fact, this is one thing that I always tell women media professionals, that if you're not a member of AMWIK, then where do you belong? Who are you walking with this journey?
Yeah.
Why don't you join us so that we can walk together? Someone once said that if you want to go fast, you walk alone. But if you want to go far,
Walk with
you
others.
walk with others. Now,
True.
when we walk together and when you join AMWIK, you stand to benefit, because other than just having a community of women where you can network and share your experiences, there's a lot of value addition that comes with joining AMWIK, including serving at a very high level, sitting on boards. AMWIK is actually overseen by a board which is elected. So we even get a taste of what national politics feels like when you join AMWIK. It even gets heated, perhaps even more than the Kenyan politics. Yeah.
How does one join?
To join, actually we have a link on our website, and that is www.amwik.org, where there's a link that women in the media can actually join. There are very simple instructions to be followed. There's a small commitment membership fee to be paid, which runs from the 1st of January to 31st of December.
Then you renew.
Then you keep renewing. Yeah, but there's a lot of value addition, and I would urge all women in the media in this country to join AMWIK.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to get back to that point where you said that in many of these institutions, we do not have, in media houses rather, we do not have enough women, let me say that, enough women in leadership. Why do you think that is so? Apart from the fact that it's a patriarchal society. Yeah.
Well, other than the fact that media mirrors society, as I'd mentioned, the other thing that the media environment does not offer is, of course, an enabling environment that can ensure that women grow career-wise. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
When I was at the Standard Group, I was in Standard Group for about maybe 12 years. But over the years, we'd not had even a basic facility such as a nursing room. And this is an institution that had hundreds of women as employees. So it took actually for one of the managers to go through the process of maternity for them to realize that we needed a nursing room. And so a nursing room was established, and of course, the rest is history. At least now, I can confirm that by the time I was leaving, at least there was a functional nursing room. Now, apart from those facilities, we also do not have policies in place that mainstream gender. And when I talk about policies, in Kenya, for example, we have, in the constitution, we have affirmative action laws. When we know there's a problem, then there's a good way to tackle it. And for me, I always believe that when something is on paper, when something is on policy, it's easy to implement. So most media organizations do not have like policies that align women towards media management. Now, when you combine all these issues, there's no goodwill. There's lack of policies. There's yet another big problem that media houses experience, and this is globally, sexual harassment. Now, for example, media houses in Kenya, when you talk about sexual harassment, it's not given visibility because the perpetrators of harassment are the supervisors. Who and what is the agenda?
Male?
Yes.
Okay.
So talking about it, reporting about sexual harassment has basically created an environment where women women in media professionals actually they opt out of the industry. They go to seek other greener pastures, and they go to work in other industries where they feel like perhaps things are a little better and they feel safer. So they exit out of the media houses. In fact, there is statistics that shows that by the time women are graduating from media training institutions, the numbers are extremely high. I think there's something like 4 out of 5 are women. But when you look at their progression over time, then the numbers diminish because of all these issues that we are talking about.
Okay.
So they opt out, they're harassed, they move to other industries, and then we end up with very little representation here.
Okay. That's fair enough in terms of what you said, because I've also witnessed it, because I've been in several media houses as well. But now, what exactly is being done? Because, like, for example, in a previous media house that I worked for, there were very clear guidelines on number one, how to deal with sexual harassment and how to avoid it. Even for us now, the male staff members, we were not supposed to touch someone if they do not, whether male or female. They don't want to be touched. So hii story ya kushikanga tu mtu kwa mgonga tunatembea tujunyi mabesti ilisha hapo. And even just talking about your own personal issues, and especially issues that could be sexual in nature, that one was a no-no. As long as in the office, you cannot talk about it. So it helped to, first of all, create boundaries, and also just to respect people and their opinion as far as these matters are concerned. But now, on a wider perspective and a wide spectrum, what is currently being done in that space? Because you're in media as well. What have you specifically as yourself done, or even as AMWIK done, to ensure that a place like Radio Generation will observe those kinds of rules and regulations?
No, I'm actually happy to know that your previous employer had a working sexual harassment policy. I would say that is the exception, because majority of media organizations, based on a study that we did in 2023, shows that the prevalence rates of sexual harassment in the media are actually quite high. There's a study that was done in 2021 that showed 70% prevalence rate. That's 7 out of 10 in a layman's language. And that is actually one thing that informed the media actors came together, right? And we were all met in Manzoni, and we came up with a declaration. And that declaration is what led to even AMWIK being given the role to ensure zero tolerance in the media industry. Now, just the other day, we did another survey, and about 65% of women journalists have experienced online harassment. And the most unfortunate bit is that when you look at the prevalence habits, those who were affected were the interns. Okay? So one thing I must say is that when it comes to the absorption of sexual harassment policies, or policies in general that advocate for, that safeguard the space of women in the media, there seems to be a lapse between policy and implementation. That's a fact. In fact, I was going to ask you, were you made aware in terms of training of the existing policy in your media house? Is it how regularly?
Are you talking about here or other places?
Other places. Where the place where you mentioned it.
Oh yeah, no, that one was regular. Let's say twice a year, like every 6 months.
That isn't regular.
Exactly.
Twice a year.
But it was around the same time we used to do the appraisals.
They thought it was regular. Twice a year is not regular.
Yeah.
For something that is considered to be problematic to the point where you have guidelines on how you should go about avoiding such things, twice a year.
It was part of the appraisal process. So when you're going for your appraisals, I mean, in 6 months, I don't think you'll have forgotten guidelines that are guiding, unless
you will forget. This is the whole point, because in 6 months, so many things happen. Okay, let's just start with the subject of sexual harassment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most people will not want to talk about it.
Thank you.
Most people want to avoid it.
Yes.
And if you know a perpetrator and is male, you will not want to be involved. That's the best you can do. But how often do you hear of men reporting other men and saying, you know, this guy here is behaving badly? They may not participate, but they will simply keep quiet. You can be an enabler simply by not
talking.
Yes, that's it.
Let me ask a question in that line of reporting a fellow colleague, for example. So I see a colleague doing whatever it is that they're doing, and then I go and report. So once I report this person, and the victim, would like to assume that there's a victim, right?
A survivor.
The survivor.
Yeah,
The survivor doesn't even like they are enjoying this so-called harassment.
How do you know they're enjoying this?
Kwanza kidogo nimeuliza tu swali, ningependa kujibiwa.
Yes,
so I see a male counterpart or male whatever colleague behaving in a certain way with an intern, let's even say, and then I feel like apana, what is going on there is not right. Then I rush to the relevant authority, assuming this time it's the HR. I tell HR, there's a way I'm seeing Kevin, for example, behaving in a certain way, and then Kevin is called, and plus the survivor is called, and then the survivor is like, but Miss Jona Shideote, Kevoni boys, maybe we even grew together or we come from the same hometown, and I'm actually interested in this guy. Yeah.
For me, the thing about sexual harassment, even before I tell you what we have done as AMWIK, is that one, it's a power play issue. So the person who has more power, more often than not, is the perpetrator. Okay, and in most cases in our newsrooms, those are the supervisors, the decision makers. Now, the scenario you're talking about, if I were to analyze it from where I sit, it is basically a situation where there is lack of awareness in that media house. Because when you understand what sexual harassment is, it is unwarranted, unsolicited act of a sexual nature. Okay, and when it happens to me, and I tell you, hey, I need you to stop, okay? And you continue, then it becomes a case of sexual harassment, okay? However, there's a distinction between sexual harassment and romantic relationship, okay? Which also happens. It can happen in a work setting, okay?
Queenter, so you can't have romantic harassment?
You can have romantic harassment. You can, I mean, you can. And for me, that's why I keep saying there seems to be a gap when it comes to just information around what sexual harassment is. And
actually, what I was asking, and I get what you're trying to say, there could be a romantic relationship ongoing, which is okay. But what I'm saying is, I can clearly see it is harassment. I can clearly see this lady is not liking what is happening to her. But once I report it, and then they are summoned, either the lady or even the guy who's been harassed, they say, no, me ajanisumbwa.
Okay, in some quarters it is called third-party harassment, where you are able to witness what is happening to someone, and it makes you comfortable. One way is what you're describing. The other way is, for example, when you're sitting next to your colleague and they're consuming content that you feel is making you uncomfortable, then you're also allowed to report. And therefore, for me, what matters is having a policy, that guideline that outlines all these different scenarios and what the reactive measures look like. I'll give you an example. At the Association of Media Women in Kenya, we've done quite a lot of work around sexual harassment in partnership with different organizations, including one that we have even developed a model sexual harassment policy, particularly for the media organizations that do not have, that are starting from ground zero. So how does this help? One is this subject is not adequately resourced. Most media organizations, people will weigh between paying salaries and developing a sexual harassment policy. Okay? The other bit is that it is not popular, just like Siti had mentioned. It's not popular because most of the time the perpetrator of the harassment are the bosses. Okay, so in a situation where, like what happened maybe in my past employment history, where one person who was a middle manager who was accused of harassment, we followed the due process to the end and he was suspended. And in another case where top boss was accused of harassment, basically what happened is walikata corner. There appeared to be a collusion between the departments that were supposed to do the investigation. And ultimately, what resulted is that we were told there was lack of evidence.
Okay.
And one thing about harassment is that the burden of proof lies on the survivor. And collecting evidence on sexual harassment is one of the toughest things, and that any journalist or anyone will have to deal with. Okay. So and you know, when it comes to reporting matters of sexual harassment, one of the things that is expected is you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt that you were actually harassed. So how do you prove beyond reasonable doubt that it happened when the act happened and then you do not have a CCTV camera, you do not have
a photo, nothing,
picture, nothing? So what we always do, and it is included even in our model sexual harassment policy, is whenever it happens, document, keep. If somebody sends you a WhatsApp message, screenshot, keep it, because when it comes to
evidence
and justification, it is one of the toughest things to undertake. And the painful bit is that lack of evidence does not mean that harassment did not take place. So you can imagine, if you're the survivor of harassment, you know it happened. Okay, and we've seen it. You know it even in the national parliament. We've seen it. You know it happened. It has affected you psychologically, mentally. You almost feel suicidal. You feel depressed. You're becoming. You're getting into the depressive state. Yet you do not have a sufficient amount of evidence to prove that it happened.
Are there instances where there has been mtu amekelewa?
It is possible. It is possible that there can be false allegation, and false allegation is addressed in our model sexual harassment policy. The thing is, it gives rights for the survivor. An adequate policy should give rights to the perpetrator as well, because they are still citizens of this country. Okay, so incidences of false accusation do happen. They could be driven by malice. They could be driven by anything. Like I said, when it comes to harassment, it is power play. Who has more power at that specific time? We have instances where managers will harass their juniors. We also have instances where juniors can actually end up harassing their managers. It has happened, but minimally. So at the end of the day, a policy needs to address everything, including false allegation. And the person who is responsible for false allegation should also face consequences for causing trouble to the alleged perpetrator.
This discussion often hits a brick wall because, one, every time it is had, it is assumed that the perpetrators are predominantly male, which in many cases it's true.
Yes.
And that women do not harass men. But the pervasive paternalistic culture that we have, in my opinion, is the brick wall. Because for many men, what we refer to, even from a legal perspective, as sexual harassment, many men consider it fair sport. It's in fact, they even wonder what on earth are these. They genuinely wonder what on earth you're complaining about. Now, if that is a thinking among men, and this cuts across men, irrespective of your station in wherever you are, can you imagine when it comes to now adjudicating on this matter? I'll give an example of what I mean. Every time you will hear cases of an individual who's had an issue and the matter goes to the police. It's a serious matter. It's an altercation. There's a lady who's been injured. You're being told, excuse me, please go. There is a culture that we have that unfortunately does not take such matters seriously. I'm saying this because when I talked about 6 months not being regular enough, you are not fighting an incident. You are fighting a pervasive cultural mindset that has been ingrained from the time you're very young. So it's not something you're just going to get to let go of, especially if you only encounter it twice a year. What you have been accustomed to is what will be predominant in your way of thinking. Because what then manifests as sexual harassment is generated in your head, in your brain. It's how you think, it's how you view things.
Like, for example, again, in previous media houses that I've worked in, you will find kwa notice board ama one of the walls, those rules zimewekwa pale, you know, they've been blown up. It's a very huge, it's like a Michael Jackson poster, yeah, so you will not miss it. And sometimes it's even when you just walk into the building, if you're using an elevator, for example, it opens up. That's the first thing you see. When you walk into the offices, certain spaces have been plastered with that thing. And then, of course, in your employment contract, you know, sometimes, you know, you're given a 25-page contract. Majority of those contracts will also include a sexual harassment policy where you can either report or how to prevent yourself from being a perpetrator and a victim at the same time. So I mean, I understand it should be as regular as possible, especially in very large organizations.
No. It doesn't have to be a large organization. You know, when you are confronted with a cultural mindset, this isn't something that's going to go away just because you wish it to go away. You only need to look at how in certain communities in this country women are perceived and how they're treated. Education doesn't wash that thing away. Somebody may be thoroughly academically educated, but their thinking is still entrenched in the village where they came from.
True.
And that's how they view life. When they speak very normally, but their thinking and their response towards women, my friend, it is at the village level, which never left the 19th century. So now, how you whatever you say makes sense. That visual impact. But this more or less requires a deliberate effort to have consistency in not talking, but ensuring that people go through a certain training and understanding of this thing. Because you can't get rid of that mindset in one session. It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And maybe just to add, there's something that Siti brought up, which is very important, that, you know, harassment is not necessarily a man and woman affair. It can happen between men and women. It can happen between
the same gender.
Men, women. And it can happen between supervisors and their juniors and the vice versa is actually also true. But I would like to agree with him again when it comes to awareness and accountability. Awareness should be ongoing, okay? You remember how this country kept us updated regarding the COVID-19 issues. Matters
daily.
It was on a daily basis. And trust you me, people took all the measures we needed to ensure that we stay safe. So this matter of sexual harassment, in my opinion, it is a matter of life and death. It is, we have to put in strategic, necessary efforts to ensure that it is a discussion that does not get out of our mind. It is a news agenda. Okay? The same way we report about corruption in this country, the same way we report about politics in this country, is the same weight and the same energy we need to put when it comes to tackling issues that affect our working environment. And one of them is sexual harassment. The other bit is on accountability. Once you have the policies in place, what measures are being taken to ensure that we are able to follow through, that these policies and these laws are implemented? Because when it comes to matters sexual harassment, you mishandle one case and millions of other survivors decide to go back into their corners and they cultivate the culture of silence. What we are trying to do is we are encouraging people to speak up. But when one case is mishandled, do you think the survivors will have confidence in the system?
Of course not.
If, for example, our national leaders are being exposed in broad daylight to mismanagement of sexual harassment cases, what will happen to you, a mere mortal? Yes. So that means that we are not safe. We are not safe in our media houses. We are not safe in this country, because we have to be very strategic about ensuring that we create enabling environment, particularly for our employers. Media people, media owners, media stakeholders need to be accountable for their employers.
But you
for
know,
their
the fourth estate is peculiar in this sense. Its very existence exudes with power. But it's not just power, as in raw power that is exhibited in the relationship the media has, say, with politicians. The only institution politicians seem to fear. But it's also with what it does to people who work in it. It gives you an almost out-of-body experience, in that you become someone that is referred to as a celeb. It's something I have not fully understood, but I'm told it exists. There are people who are called celebs, okay?
See to any celeb.
It doesn't make me understand it better just because you've said it. Okay? But the thing is this.
Yep.
When one considers their life and what it is that they would like to be seen as, and something goes wrong, the likelihood is that you will keep quiet. The ecosystem of a media house can be very pervasive, but by and large, it'll be more difficult to talk about it in that particular environment than very many others, because it is actually very unique. We work in the media, and you worked in the media house, so you will know it's actually a very unique setup. There is none other that you can compare it with. You can't compare it with working in a hospital or in a school. You actually can't, simply because of the dynamics. You are more or less like a religious organization. You get to meet everybody, you know everybody, and worse still, we know a lot of things about very many people. All these things, when you mix them, something goes wrong within the media house, it'll be clamped on. It's not written anywhere, but it will be understood that thing is not going anywhere. Okay? If we can keep quiet about things that we know, because either you've been instructed to keep quiet, or somebody has spoken to you the way Kenyans speak to each other. I'm just painting a picture so that one understands the dynamism of a media house and why it is very difficult. And even in countries that you refer to as advanced, the problem is when the survivor is a woman, my friend, you start on the back end, on the back foot, because you need to prove. And you're thinking, wait a moment, I'm the one who's been harmed if I was female. And I am the one that the deck is stacked against you from the get-go. So how do you get to a position where there's equity when it comes to justice? Remember I told you the other day, justice is aspirational. Forget the law. So the discussions around it gets even, should I say, more spicier when you now say that this very tool that we use to make our business what it is has also turned out to be a platform where women now are facing the same problem. Now this one is even more difficult to handle.
True story. Yeah, you know, the reality, City, is, I feel like it is a case of, what would we say the opposite of, you cannot blow your own trumpet. Yeah, we in media, we do not blow our own trumpets. We almost shut them up. And like you've mentioned, when you look at how, forget about the physical environment. The physical environment, we have, from the discussions we have had, they have proven to be unsafe, particularly for the women journalists and women media professionals. Now we have this other tool, which we feel like it could have been potentially extremely beneficial. It has actually. I mean, it has changed the whole digital ecosystem. If you ask me, many years ago, it would have taken me years to even come to your studios, which, by the way, looks very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. But because of technology, all I needed to do was just go online and speak to Julie, and Julie brought me here safely. Okay? In fact, brought me up to the gate. So technology is proving to be a double-edged sword. On one hand, we have seen a lot of progress, honestly speaking. I'm a beneficiary of technology, and I think it would be wrong for me to not to say that. And somebody once said, I think he's an author, he's called Brian Sol. It's a quote I like saying, that the good thing about social media is that it gives everyone a voice. And the bad thing about social media is that it gives everyone a voice. And this is the catch-22 where we are at, particularly for the women in the media, because this platform that has been beneficial for us is also proving to be extremely hazardous to us. These are women journalists, women in public and prominent spaces, politicians, lawyers, and women human rights defenders. The digital platform is really giving us grief, and I'm glad that whatever we are going through has been recognized by international bodies, because this year the theme for IDEU was Chat GBV. We are talking about gender-based violence, 11 years since the UN resolution. For me, it is a big deal. Yeah, at least now we are recognizing that gender-based violence is happening in the media, and now gender-based violence is also happening on the digital platforms. And now when we start having these discussions, then I'm hopeful that at the end of the day, we'll perhaps come up with some good solutions. Yeah.
Let's talk about AI-facilitated gender-based violence.
Yeah.
How, first of all, what is that?
Right.
Yeah. So we call it technology-facilitated gender-based violence. Let me just say that from the get-go, we cannot even agree on the accurate definition.
Okay.
Some people call it online harassment. Some people call it cyberbullying. Some people, I mean, it is an animal that has not really been defined.
Okay.
But the UN came up with a definition, and they call it acts of violence that are facilitated or that perpetuated or assisted because of technology. Okay. Now, technology, we are talking about phones, the digital spaces, the websites, you know. So any acts of violence that are assisted because of perhaps the qualities of the technological platforms, the fact that when you can operate anonymously, okay? So all those things, they are associated, they are called technology-facilitated gender-based violence. And maybe what I can say is, one, it is a strategy, okay? It is a strategy that is weaponized to silence vocal people on the online platforms, okay? And it takes the forms of threats, intimidation, falsified information, all of that to ensure that the people do not enjoy their digital rights. Unfortunately, again, the fact that the digital space has been quite beneficial to women, the people who are receiving the short end of the stick once again are women. And let me just put a disclaimer there.
Okay.
When you talk about technology-facilitated gender-based violence, when you talk about gender, we are not referring to women. Okay? Gender are just roles that are given to us because of the societies where we come from.
Okay.
Okay? But most of the time when you talk about gender-based violence, people tend to think that we are only referring to
women.
No. It's just that the reason why that is coming out that way, because the ones who are highly affected right now are women. Physically, we're talking about 1 in 3. 1 in 3 women have gone through some form of gender-based violence. In Kenya, the numbers are even higher. For men, they say 1 in 10. 1 in 10. But because men do not speak up, maybe those numbers could even go higher. When it comes to TFGBV, AMWIK actually did a research, again, focusing on journalists, lawmakers, women human rights defenders, women in the limelight generally. Yeah. That was last year in 2024. Now, from the research, 50% of those we spoke to had actually encountered some form of TFGBV. Global data is a bit high. UNESCO has been doing biannual reports on TFGBV, and their data shows about global data is about 73%, but in Kenya they're talking about 75.4%. So again, 7 in 10. AMWIK had done another survey earlier on, which almost correlate with the same results, where we're talking about 7 out of 10. So this data is really worrying because there seems to be an overlap between online violence and offline violence. It's just that now with technology, the rates are going extremely high because of the digital tools. For example, if I have been abused online, not once. Okay, so anytime, for example, an image of yours appears online, the digital tools, for example, retweeting and resharing on different platforms, makes it move at extremely fast speed. Okay, and from our research, we also realized that the primary platforms where abuse seems to be perpetuated are the ones that are being used by the elderly folk, like Siti Muga and myself. The WhatsApp, the Facebook, you know, WhatsApp forums. There's a lot of abuse that happens there, and most of the time, what we experience is intimate partner abuse. It happens on the online platform, but because you cannot, how will you tell the world that I've been abused on WhatsApp? Or my significant other is sending me this or sending me that. So WhatsApp, Facebook, X, if you look at our survey, which is available on our website, of course, were some of the platforms where TFGBV were perpetuated. And of course, in terms of the different forms of technology-facilitated gender-based violence, the one that was at the top was the image-based abuse. You know, pretty much people sending you images or using your images without your consent, sharing your intimate images, or people sharing intimate images that you've not solicited for. Okay, so we've seen a lot of that. There is defamation, people giving false information about you. There is doxing, sharing information publicly, which we experienced during the anti-finance bill, where a majority of media professionals, their contact information was shared on the online platforms. Wakasalimiwa kabisa. Okay, so there's a lot around TFGBV, body shaming, cyber stalking, cyber bullying. It is all over the place. Yes.
Does this not raise the question?
Yes.
What is our biggest influencer? Because there was a traditional thinking that your background and your upbringing more or less formed you and you became a certain type of person. Now, did your survey look and find out as to the people who consume this particular space? What sort of age group are they in? Or is it just everybody, since it's a free-for-all? Why I'm asking the question is because what the very entity that influences you the most is what will determine how you behave. We argue sometimes that we can't escape our upbringing. If you grew up in an environment where people trade insults on a regular basis as a child, you'll find the moment a child learns to speak, they spew insults. In fact, you can look at his mouth and you wonder, God Almighty, what on earth is this little child doing? But that's what they've heard. They probably have no idea what it is they're actually saying, but that's what they've heard, and so that's how they speak. When people get to the point where I've heard a lot about this and I've even seen some, and you wonder, what sort of mind do you need to have to be able to put such things in the public domain and even to utter the things that people utter? I think you understand what I'm asking. Is it that the traditional influences in our lives have sort of like gone out of the way, and that we now have new influences, and that's what pushes this conversation that we often see in social media?
Perhaps you can look at it this way. Did we have disinformation before the advent of technology?
Yes.
We did, isn't it?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. In fact, the other day, we were in Nakuru to mark International Day to End Impunity Against Journalists. And I was giving a presentation around whether with the advent of technology, press freedom has diminished. And one of the illustrations I gave was very basic, which is the story of, I don't want to call her the infamous Wangu wa Makere. And Wangu wa Makere, I don't know whether Mbuvi is Gen Z.
No.
Is not.
Millennial
Backbencher.
Niko pale juu.
Kwa hapo juu.
Mimi ni millennium mzee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wangu, if her story was to be retold with today's lens, in today's setting, because I'm looking at the controversies that surrounded her leadership. One is the fact that she was perhaps the only notable woman during the colonial era in Kenya. She was, I'm told, by the history records, she was one of the most ruthless tax collectors. She was a headman, perhaps the only one during that era. The way she got that position is because of there was an extramarital affair between her and the chief during that time, and the chief wanted to word got to the husband. She was also married to a polygamous man, a heavily polygamous man. So in order to appease Wangu's husband, the chief decided to offer the position of the headman, which Wangu decided, no, the husband declined, and then Wangu was offered, and she said, yes, I'm going to do it. And so these are the kind of stories that media would like to describe against. She went against all odds to get that role. And ultimately, because of her ruthlessness, in some quarters, they say that she used to sit on men, the ones who refused to pay taxes. And one time she was invited to the village dance, and the village grapevine said she must have overdid it, and she danced and exposing some parts of her body. And so that was the beginning of her downfall. So she had to resign. So I tried to imagine how that story would look like in today's era, how Nairobian would have milked it dry, how different media platforms would have run with it. And what point am I driving at? That disinformation did not begin today. Disinformation has been part and parcel of our systems. Only that the channels vary. Back in the day, there were perhaps village gossips that would run around with the information, spreading lies and spreading disinformation. And then what has happened? Okay, one of the factors that has not changed is that disinformation highly disfavored women, always, even back in the day. So what has happened is that with technology, disinformation has remained the same, but the tools of disinformation is the reason why we are now talking about technology facilitated gender-based violence. To answer your question, if there is one thing that we really need to deal with as a country, is our cultural beliefs. Some of them are extremely harmful, okay, when it comes to dealing with very critical issues in this country, including gender-based violence. If we can get down to the mind of the patriarchal nature, I'm glad that right now we have men who are born again, quote unquote. They have seen the light. There are men who are very open-minded. There are men who are willing to understand that there is good culture and then there is bad culture. There is culture that is going to support us, and there is culture that is going to break us down. So when we're talking about gender-based violence in all its form, whether it is femicide, whether it is technology-facilitated gender-based violence, whether it is the physical violence, whether it is emotional, economic violence, then we need to get down to having dialogues. We need to break down these patriarchal attitudes, mindset in this country for us to progress. Otherwise, there is nothing that Facebook or TikTok will do to change your mind as City or as Otieno or as Kipruto that will make you understand that beating a woman or insulting a woman or using a woman's body part to shame her is wrong if you do not understand it from a cultural perspective. It really takes. In fact, one of the recommendations that we gave in our report is having multisectoral approaches. The media alone cannot manage TFGBV. The government alone will not manage TFGBV, and therefore we need the civil society, we need the media, we need international governmental organizations, we need each and everybody in this conversation to ensure that whatever we are propagating online is a representation of who we are.
Okay.
You know, it's only that with the online platforms, we have the ability to hide behind the platforms. We can create a false account and express what we deeply feel. You know, most of them are culturally driven.
Queenter,
Yes.
we have actually come to the end of the show.
No.
We are overrunning, but in 10 seconds, cybercrime bill, is it a blessing or a curse as far as what you're talking is concerned?
It's a blessing. It is a blessing and a curse.
Okay.
Yes.
Wacha tutakuita siku ingine tuongee maneno. But thank you so much. This is where we come to a close.